Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast of Real Recovery. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you. It is time for Real Recovery. Bill Arnold on this side of the studio, and just across the way, George P. Fraser. Hello, George.
I'm shocked sometimes when the show starts, because we're in here and we say that prayer and we're standing around. It's kind of like hockey. You do the national anthem and they drop the puck and all of a sudden you're going. It's great.
Right. Do you want me to blow a siren or something and really get your attention?
We'd like when they score, I was a goalie. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
I want to lead off tonight with a scripture right out of Philippians chapter 2 and verse 13. It says, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act according to his good purpose." It is God's work in you. And this is going to be something we're going to talk about tonight, George, because on Real Recovery, we always like to pick out a step and do a little dissecting of it. We're going to look at step 2, that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves, we call him Jesus, could restore us to sanity.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack, lean into, and bathe with prayer as we wind up going. For me, and I think most of the people that work this step, we start with step 1 where we admit we're powerless over drugs, alcohol, our life's unmanageable. And then we come to believe that a power greater than ourselves, Jesus, can restore us to sanity. Sanity is believing the truth and acting on it. We go to John 14:6. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." People, and I know I misinterpreted this step for 25, 30 years, thinking that I admitted I had a problem. And then I came to believe in God. That I at least had the good sense to go, "God, I'm here for you now because I need you to be here for me." I had the good sense to do that, Bill, even though I couldn't get sober and I was doing coke and gambling and all other things. And I look back on that and it's like, said on this program many times, your recovery starts while you're still using. The Holy Spirit convicts you that it's not the right way to go, it's not working, and there's hope. And you probably have more using to do, but that thought's planted. And then it becomes not good enough, and you get the gift of desperation where you're really willing to take the action, not, well, I'm going to drink this weekend. And I have met very few people whose sober dry date is January 1st. And I know many people, most of them that are my friends that are in recovery, who coming through the end of December, that was their New Year's resolution.
I bet it was.
New Year's Eve's the last time. But what happened is God is drawing you, so this came to believe you didn't do that on your own. God drew you. You didn't choose me. I called you for recovery. And when you realize that, and it blends into where you make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand him. In step 3, we understand him to be Jesus because he is the highest power, not a higher power. You look back and go, this was a partnership here. I thought I did this. And a lot of times people, when they get an anniversary of sobriety, they're asked, how did you do it? Well, when I got 25 years, I went to 4 different gatherings that week, and it's my Academy Award moment. And the last time I did it, the 4th time, there wasn't a dry eye in the house, including mine, which is really kind of weird. And I'm driving home thinking, how did I do it? And I got the thought in my head from God, you didn't do it, I did it.
It's quite a moment you had.
And I think
reality struck.
Nobody gets sober unless God does it. And Bill, I don't know how it breaks down on what our part is and free will and God's will. I don't have to figure it out to do it. And to be obedient and pray for sobriety every day before getting out of bed and having God do it for me. But nobody does this without God, even if they don't give him credit.
Mm-hmm. Let me go back to that verse in Philippians because I think it's worth repeating again. For it is God who works in you to will and to act according to his good purpose. So He's got you. And if you are at a place tonight where you are struggling with addiction and you have got to get off this treadmill of having moments of sobriety and seasons, but then you go back and you can't seem to get out of this cycle, we want you to know that God can do works in you to will and to act according to his good purpose. Trust his plan for your life. Don't try to figure this out yourself. It never works when you do. Does that sound right, George?
Well, the trust thing is you have to believe it enough to do it. And the gift of addiction is you have to do it every day. You have to pick up your cross, put yourself to death with God's help, and do his will.
And that's the ultimate struggle because we're such selfish beings and we're so self-absorbed. I asked the wrong person that.
No, you're looking at me when you said it, and I go, hey, I'm not going to argue with you.
I get that. So let's take a little breather here, and then after the break, we're going to bring on our special guest, Mindy. She's got quite a story to tell. They're going to hear some twists and turns in this story that is going to be pretty riveting. So I really hope you can hear the program, and hang in there with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. George, this is the fun part, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great first segment, but now let's roll with our guest, Mindy, who's here with us in studio. Mindy, welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. We're looking forward to learning about you and your life and what God has done in it. So, like George and I always like to start with young Mindy. Tell me what life was like growing up.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. I'm 48 years old, so I'm going way back.
Okay.
I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional situation. I grew up with two parents that struggled with drugs and alcohol. I didn't meet my father until much later, so it was just me and my mom, and I had a brother. And we didn't see much of Mom. She was kind of out living her life, and it wasn't until much later that I met my dad for the first time. Didn't develop a relationship with him. He wasn't there. He wasn't supportive. Let's see. My mom finally got to a point where she wanted to turn her life around and kind of give up that party lifestyle. And so she moved me away to a place called Cumberland, Wisconsin. She thought a fresh start and getting away from the city would be good. And at that point in time, I was about 14 years old, and I was upset. I was so upset that I made it my mission to make sure that her life was as miserable as she was making mine. So I started rebelling. I started using drugs. All the things she was trying to get away from, I was just diving right into.
Were you mad that she had pulled you away and took you to Cumberland, Wisconsin, so I'll show you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, 100%.
That's a good plan.
Cumberland's a really delightful town
I've
now.
heard it's nice. Yeah.
Looking back, she was doing me a solid. However, I didn't see it that way. I grew up really attached to a good group of friends because my family life was so dysfunctional. And I just thought that why was I being punished? It felt like a punishment.
Yeah, you were being taken away from your peeps.
Yep.
What drugs did you do?
Everything. Everything I could get my hands on. Cumberland, Wisconsin had more to offer than you would think. So.
Do you remember the first time you got high?
Yep. The first time that I got high, I believe my mom had a boyfriend and he had marijuana in the house. I found it. I smoked it. I got caught with it. And then later on, revealed, I was like, I took this from your boyfriend. What did you expect? And then after that, it was just anything I could get my hands on, LSD. And then I started doing cocaine. And then I found methamphetamines.
Let's back up a little bit if we can. So the first time you got high, did you get high? Did you like it? Was it a good experience?
I was looking for an escape. And I found that in drugs. I found that in partying, and I found that I could just completely detach from my life. Because although my mom had moved to this town to get sober, it wasn't, it was still pretty dysfunctional. It was still, terrible men coming in and out of the home. It was still, a lack of parenting skills. She she didn't have that in her. So
you're looking for an escape from your reality, and you have it now. Where's this been? And did you think you would do it again after you did it the first time?
Drugs? Oh, yeah. I had no fear. As a young person, and I don't know if this is just something, as young people, you just don't understand consequences yet. I was 13, 14 years old, and I just I didn't have any fear.
We always go back to that on this show. And Bill, it's the same thing. I have some trouble in my life, no matter what it is, and I try something, and all of a sudden I've got a solution. I'm going to be doing this again. And so we get the feeling, and then we start seeking the feeling, and our life changes.
Yep. Yeah, and, mind you, there wasn't a portion of my life that was great. There was just, I had these friends that I grew up with, I wanted to stay with, and then I had that just ripped away from me. And I even had some family members down here in the Twin Cities that were staple people that always kind of looked out for me. But then being stuck in Wisconsin with just my mom, I couldn't deal with that.
I'm curious, had you gone to church at all? Any God in your life before that?
No, my grandparents brought us to church, Easter, Christmas. They were Catholic. And so there wasn't a lot of talk about a relationship with the Lord or anything like that. I knew of church, but didn't understand the significance of church.
No connection, kind of a have to, and then we're done, check it, and I'm gone.
Yep.
Can relate to that growing up.
Yeah.
So this progressed. You went from marijuana. Do you remember what the next thing you did was?
It was marijuana, then it was LSD.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
At age 14?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
14.
So you really didn't have any fear?
No.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I hung out with a lot of older people.
Okay.
And, I found others who were somewhat troubled like I was.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no fear, and I would try anything. So, I tried cocaine, I tried LSD, I tried PCP, I tried mushrooms. I would try anything.
Okay, so you've got now a new group of friends that aren't doing much other than using with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not great friends. They're just using friends.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing if you're 14, you're starting to you're caring about some things and not caring about other things.
Right.
So when it comes to just showing up at home when you're 14 and you're high, did your mom go, I think you're high?
My mom didn't spend a lot of time at home.
Okay.
So once we moved to Wisconsin, she was an absentee mother when we were here in the Twin Cities. And then moving to Wisconsin, she was working in a bar. She was gone a lot of the time. And then if she was home, it was usually just a toxic relationship.
Yeah. So were you one of those latchkey kids? I don't know if you know that expression, but you had your own key to the house and you let yourself in and you just had no supervision when you got home?
No, none whatsoever. And to be honest with you, when she did try to parent, it was so explosive. And I'd run away. I'd run as far as I could get. I'd run to the nearest city. I'd run to my friends. I'd run back to the Twin Cities.
Wow.
I would try to get as far away from home as possible.
Mm-hmm. So if you're 14 or 15, how are you getting around?
I hung out with a lot of older people.
Okay. And they would drive you where you wanted to go.
And I was a really good driver at the age of 14.
And you weren't afraid to use the car, were you?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
No sober cab, though. I'm wondering, didn't you say your mom moved to Wisconsin to clean up the act and change the life? And I'm assuming the geographic cure didn't last very long.
No, it did not. It was a different set of people, maybe less toxic is what she was experiencing down here. She was able to break free from drugs for a period of time, but she still worked in a bar. That's the only experience she had. She still had, terrible men coming through the house. And so, you can clean up your act or move away, but if you don't deal with the reason that you use or the healing piece of it, you're just, not much is going to change.
Yeah, you can travel on 10,000 miles and still stay right where you are because it's you. It's a good attempt, and hopefully later in the story that was the start of maybe her recovery. I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yes, we will. Yeah.
And I'm also really curious, Mindy, about how you've got some personal consequences because you're turning your life into trouble. Mm-hmm. But are you starting to also deal with other consequences outside, like run-ins with the law or anything that was causing additional grief?
Well, what about the poor grades, Bill? I'm sure the report card wasn't that great.
You and I had bad report cards. So.
Yeah. There was truancy in school. I wasn't going to school. When I did go to school, after you start using drugs, I recognized I didn't come from a wealthy family. And I was like, okay, how do I keep this up now that I'm starting to, I guess you could say I started getting addicted. It's
Spending money on drugs.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. So naturally, I became a drug dealer.
Okay.
And naturally, I was, going to school to sell marijuana. And that was about it. And then I stopped going to school. I think maybe my sophomore year, they're like, you're not going to graduate with the rest of your class. I was like, well, if that's the case, I'm just not going to go. And so I stopped going to school I think it was my sophomore year.
Were you pretty angry?
Yes. I was an angry kid. I was a troubled kid. I was always really likable, though. I would say I don't know what it was. I have a pleasant demeanor about myself, but I would act out and I would do things that I wasn't supposed to do. But parents generally liked me. I think they might have felt bad for me. They could see that I was troubled, but.
Did your pleasant demeanor, maybe a little con going, get you out of a lot of trouble too?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that as well, George. I was going to use the word manipulative because you can probably manipulate because of your charm, because that's what charming people can do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that got me pretty far in both sides of things. It got me out of a lot of trouble, but I still found plenty of trouble that I could not find my way out of. So,
Yeah. So you're out of high school now and you're still 16. Are you going back to high school to be selling drugs or connecting to kids in high school to sell drugs?
At that point, I was like, I don't need to go to school anymore.
Okay.
I'd found a group of friends. We all kind of did the same things. We sold drugs so that we could continue doing drugs. We partied. I moved out of the home at around 16.
Okay.
I had an older boyfriend and other friends. Like we all stayed in one house, and yeah, I did that until I turned 18, and I thought it would be a good time to head back down to the Twin Cities and reconnect with my old friends.
Okay.
Because?
Because I felt a sense of belonging. I grew up, down here, and I grew up with like some pretty good friends. What I found when I came back to the Twin Cities is that some of those same friends that I was connected with had found even more trouble than I had to get into. So I just think there was more opportunity in the Twin Cities, and I looked at it as a coming home and maybe a sense of normalcy. And what I was like plagued with was like, I'm sitting here with this addiction and now I have more opportunity to do more things. I got into, every ill thing you could imagine. But my real trouble started when I found methamphetamines. I thought I had found like the answer to all my problems. It was this mind-numbing drug that kept me completely disassociated from reality. I recall a time when I was awake for, like 12 days. 12 days. Like there's no like rational thought left in your mind when you're awake for that long. And the people that you're surrounded by, you're looking around and I see nothing but just desperation and hopelessness. And I recall the time like around 18 or 19 where I had accepted that was my life and that was likely going to be how I would die.
That's really
that there
sad.
wasn't a way out.
Yeah. I think we're going to take a short break at this point. We're talking to Mindy. You're listening to Real Recovery with Bill and George. We'll be right back in just a minute. Okay, we're back talking to Mindy. And Mindy, it sounds like at some point we're going to hear about some big chunk of really, really bad news.
Yeah.
Because that's usually what happens.
Yep. Yeah. I think I left off telling you around 18, 19, that's when I had accepted that, like, this is my life. This is what I was going to do. I was going to use and sell drugs probably until the day that I died. But there was a key point there. My father had come back into my life, and I was like, oh, this, might be a significant thing. And I realized that he also struggled with addiction. So I was using with my father, I found out I had 4 sisters. I was using with my siblings, and just really dark times. I ended up, I started losing friends, some of the friends I was using with due to overdose and death and just all these terrible things. And I remember a time I'd been in and out of jail quite a few times. And I remember this time I had a cellmate. She was facing charges for murder. And there was this woman who was coming in and telling her about Teen Challenge and telling her how she should come there and talking to her about God and the Holy Spirit and all these things. And I was listening. She wasn't there for me, but I was listening. And I remember saying to myself, like, man, if my life ever gets so unmanageable, I was like, I'll go to that place. I was like, I believe everything this woman says. And she's not even talking to me.
Oh, great.
I was like, I don't know what it was about her, but I believed her. And I would see people go to Teen Challenge and then I wouldn't see them again. I was like, maybe it works. But my life's not that unmanageable yet. That was at like the age of 20, 22. So fast forward, I continue this path of destruction and keep getting in deeper, and at this point, I'm like selling pounds of methamphetamines. I'm dealing with cartel. I'm, carrying guns. There was no cap to like how much dumb stuff I was into. And I remember crying out to the Lord, and I was like very surprised by that because I didn't grow up with that. I had no history of that. And I cried out and I was like, did I just cry out to the Lord? And 2 days later, I was randomly pulled over, arrested, and then later federally indicted on drug trafficking charges. And I remember thinking, I should go to Teen Challenge now because now I'm in some serious trouble. And one thing about Teen Challenge is they accept everybody. But the federal indictment was kind of holding me back a little bit. They were like, no, this isn't your get out of jail free card. Like, you don't just get to go to Teen Challenge. And that's what I was looking at it as. I hadn't put together that I cried out to the Lord and then 2 days got arrested. I didn't look at that as like an answered prayer. I was like, what? How is this happening? So again, trying to manipulate and find my way out of things. I got the acceptance letter from Teen Challenge and then got denied from the feds. I would sit in county jail for about 10 months. None of like my family or friends, like the good ones, would speak to me. I'd burned every bridge. I was suicidal. I was accepted that. I was looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison for a gun charge, drug trafficking, and then a high-speed chase. So I was like, okay, well, there's only a couple ways out of this. Teen Challenge isn't one of them. There's death. There's run, it was the end. And I wasn't necessarily surprised because I knew, because of the way that I was living, that this would happen one day. I just, the gravity of all that was probably my lowest point.
Did you ever think about escaping? Did you try to figure out a way to get out of there?
Out of jail?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I daydream about it all day long.
Okay.
The jail cell, trying to kill yourself in jail is really difficult. That was one way out. I thought if they let me out, I could flee. And yeah, it's probably a good thing they didn't let me out. I don't know if I would even be here if that would have happened. So I sat there for another 10 months. And then finally they approached me and said, if you accept responsibility for the drugs with the intent to distribute, we'll drop the gun charge. So then I was looking at 8 to 10 years. And they're like, we'll give you another opportunity to get out before you go to prison so you can like say goodbye to your family and get your affairs in order. And I was like, ooh, I could leave. That would be, I could get out and leave. So I said, yeah, I'll take that deal. And plus I thought 8 to 10 years, like, look at what I've been doing. Like, I'm guilty, like 8 to 10 years, like maybe I'll do 6. I can do that.
Did you, after being in there for a while, did you figure I could do the time? Did you think
oh, yeah.
did you get kind of used to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I did. And then, so when I was released, I thought, okay, I could flee. I could, hope that I get the 6 years. And while I was out on pretrial, it was a short period of time. And the people who cared about me were like, listen, I was still hanging out with all the same people I used to. I wasn't getting high, but I was pretty much. I was just about there. And they said to me, they're like, why don't you just go to Teen Challenge? I was like, So I started thinking, and then I applied to go to Teen Challenge, and my judge postponed my sentencing until I was done with that program. And again, pretty manipulative. And I was like, this is going to look really good in court. So I went to Teen Challenge, and oh man, I can't I can't even tell you what happened when I walked through those doors. For the first time in my life, I understood what like unconditional love was. I had never experienced that in my life. And when I got there, I just knew, I was like, my life would be different. I was still a little bit of a turd while I was there, though.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
It didn't,
rebellion?
didn't happen all
Yeah.
at once for
Yep.
you to turn into a saint who was...
No, I'm still working on it, in fact.
Well, no, I get that. But it's always really interesting to see somebody's reaction. We hear it a lot, and I know you're in the field. And
Yeah.
but when people get arrested,
Yeah.
and they're cuffed in the back of the car, and they know, oh, good, I can quit now. The
Yeah.
gig is up.
Yeah.
And you had one of those moments where there's a possibility, I'm here, I'm home.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah.
So you got to hear the gospel.
Yeah.
You got to get to a point in your life where you were able to place your faith in Jesus.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I did. It was, let's see, it was kind of a long process. I had some really great mentors. Pastor Rich Sherber, any chance that he was like, Mindy, why don't you come share your story?
Love it.
Why don't you come share your story? And I was like, why does this guy keep asking me to share my story, you know? And I was like, I've never held a microphone in my hand. I've never spoken in front of a church. I've never done any of that. And I'm like, why do I keep getting put in these positions? And I remember, my leadership at Teen Challenge saying, well, we see, these leadership qualities in you. I was like, oh, you probably say that to everybody to see if they'll rise to the occasion, And, but I got to do a lot of really cool things and really was developed as a leader. And I remember thinking, I had all these people telling me, God can deliver you from this. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get my hopes up. They're like, no, he could open the doors and you'll never have to go to prison. He can do that. And I was like, I believe that. Like, I believe that God can do whatever he wants. I was like, but I also know that I'm guilty. I also know that I probably deserve to go to prison for some amount of time. And I don't want to get myself so psyched up to not go and then have to go. And I remember telling the Lord, I made this deal. I said, listen, if you can deliver me from this, and I know you can, I was like, I will serve you for the rest of my life. And so fast forward, I go through Teen Challenge, and it's sentencing day. And I'm in a courtroom full of supporters and people that like love me and care about me. And a lot of Teen Challenge people were there. And I remember the judge saying, I don't know what happened to you. I don't know who you are. You're not the same person that was here, 10 months ago. And he goes, I don't want to send you to prison for a single day. And I was like, wow, this is good. He goes, but unfortunately I have to follow mandatory minimums.
Mm-hmm.
So I already signed for 8 to 10. He goes, I'm giving you 5. I'm giving you time served for Teen Challenge, which had never at that point been done in a federal case before. He goes, you've already served 10 months. He goes, I'm going to recommend you do another program in prison that will get you more time off your sentence. And I'm going to give you another month of freedom to get your affairs in order. And I remember like crying, and all the people around me were crying, and they're like, I can't believe you have to go to prison. I'm like, I can't believe I get to go to prison. I was like, I remember that day so clearly and being so filled with joy because, yes, I was blessed in the courtroom, but I'd been talking to God about this for a while. And I'm like, if you're going to send me on fire for Jesus. Send me in there as a missionary. I will go and I will serve you. And what I realized that day was like the Lord didn't deliver me from a prison sentence. He delivered me from a life of debauchery and sin and hopelessness. And that I was like, I need to do more. Like, how can I do more? Like, I told you I'd serve you for the rest of my life, but like, is there more I can do? So I got to go to prison, and oh man, I got to tell you, I had so much fun in prison. It sounds so stupid, but I got to talk about Jesus. I got to lead Bible studies. I had a really huge prayer group that people were like, could you please just go to bed? Because, it's an open bunk, and, we're there praying for like an hour and a half, and they're like, I'm trying to go to sleep. And I'm like, okay, we're almost done. They're like, pray for my aunt. Like, okay, we got you. I got to experience like people getting free and serving the Lord inside the walls of prison. And that there's really nothing that I've experienced like that since.
Very cool.
Absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
How long did you have to do?
Oh, I was there less than 2 years.
I've never heard anybody say that. I don't want to leave.
Well, no, don't get me wrong. I wanted to leave.
Yeah, but you were excited going.
I was
and
excited
you
to
were
go.
mission-minded when you arrived
Yes.
at the gates.
Yep.
That's spectacular.
Yeah.
What was it like when you got out?
Oh, well, that was a wake-up call. I remember, so Pastor Rich Sherber saying to me, I could see you working at Teen Challenge one day. And so I got out of prison. I was like, okay, where's my job? And I remember he said, oh, hang on. If you know Pastor Rich, he was like a deer in headlights, like, oh, shoot. Oh, yeah. Why don't we wait a little bit and just kind of see what you're going to do first, make sure I didn't go back to my old life and this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. So I got a job. I did, what I needed to do. I bought a home with my husband. I had a child, and then I started working at Teen Challenge. It wasn't shortly. It was about a year after I was released that I started working there.
How did you stay clean during that year?
Well, I had built quite a strong network of church family. I had my daughter and my husband and, all of my staff members at Teen Challenge and the friends that I had made there. So I had a strong network of people.
You had a solid, sober support network that were Christians.
Yep.
I love that community. It's solid, it's in place, and it's there to love and support you.
Yeah.
Makes all the difference, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think when that happens, and it's hard to get that going for people early in recovery, because really, if you want to stay sober, you got to lose your old friends, because you want to use when you're around them, and that's tough to get. But when you get to the point where if you ever think about using, you don't want to lose what you have in recovery. You're probably good. And you were also working with a lot of other people. You were praying for people. So we always talk on this show that God doesn't clean us up, forgive us of our sins, without having a job for us to do, which is the coolest thing. The creator of the universe takes the worst, us, and goes, here, I want you to represent me to people that are still out there dying from what you had. And it's like, how would you not want to do that, huh?
Yeah. It's been a life of service, I think, that has kept me also. Like a big portion of it is like being able to give back and watching other people for that light bulb to come on and for it to click. Like, oh, okay, this is like God has something more for you. Like when people start to realize that and like understand that each of us has a calling, each of us has something to do here. It's like, wow, just look out. It's really a beautiful thing to watch. So.
One thing I'm going to take away from this segment of the show is never underestimate who might be overhearing what you're saying.
True.
Yeah.
I still can't get over that you were someone who's being visited in your jail cell, and you were hearing about it. You were hearing about Jesus.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you know how she did, by the way, the other person?
She went to Shakopee prison. I'm not sure for how long, but
Okay.
All right. We're going to
stuff.
take a little break and come right back. Hear more of Mindy's story. You're listening to Real Recovery with Bill and George. We'll be right back. I think this story has just about everything. Just about everything in it.
I think there's more to come here.
I believe
I
there
want
is.
to wait till my mic goes on.
Well,
Otherwise, it's mime in here. Right?
yeah. So Mindy is our guest tonight, and if you've missed any of this story, you need to hear it right from the beginning. So make sure you go to the podcast and hear it from the start. But let's fast forward a little bit, Mindy, because right now you are serving the Lord and have not taken your foot off the pedal, and you made kind of a vow at a younger age that you would serve Him, and that's what you're doing.
yeah.
So let's hear about what God has led you to do and how you're doing it.
All right. Well, I had mentioned I started working at Teen Challenge about a year after I was released from prison. And man, that has shaped and molded me. I mean, I spent 15 years in addiction, and now I've spent over 15 years in recovery. And so that was a huge milestone for me. But this whole time I'm working at Teen Challenge, I'm seeing old friends of mine come through the program. I'm seeing kids of old friends of mine come through the program. I'm seeing people that I was in prison with come through the program, and just hearing the stories of like, I remember you used to talk about Jesus. I remember how much joy you had. And I was like, where am I going to find that? And watching people come alive in that program is amazing. And I learned a lot while working in Teen Challenge. Again, I had so many great mentors. And one thing that I had seen, right, I served as a recovery coach. I served as a supervisor. I was the aftercare chaplain for a while. That was a really sweet spot for me. And then I served as the women's program manager and then the women's director. So I had still have a really good career at Teen Challenge. But there was something that I had missed, or there's something that I seen was missed. I would see people come back in, and we all know that that is a part of recovery is, relapse. And I started asking more questions like, what happened? You had the same experience. You ran such a good program. Why are you back here? And almost every time it was, I went to a poorly run sober house. I went back to my old community. I went back home. I didn't stay grounded. I didn't have a church family. I didn't stay under the umbrella. And when I was in the program, I remember thinking it would be really, that I would want to run women's sober houses one day. I used to talk about it with a couple of my friends in Teen Challenge. And so after hearing, these stories of women who just either didn't have good families or didn't have a strong community, I was like, what can I do? And in 2023, after working there for about 13 years, I took a leap of faith and I stepped down out of my role in Teen Challenge and I started working on what is now called Restore Recovery. It is scary, right? Because I've always been with Teen Challenge, it seemed like, for so very long. It's like, Lord, is this what you want? Is this really what you want? I'm stepping out. And he has just shown me time and time again that I am walking in my calling and that I am doing what it is that he asked. And I started Restore Recovery with a couple of other gals. It's they're no longer with the organization, but we just had a dream, had a mission, and we rented a house in Northfield, Minnesota, and had 8 women in the house. And now we have, it's 2026, so it's been at this for about 2.5 years. We have 8 homes across the state of Minnesota.
Hold on. You have 8 homes that are sober houses for women.
Mm-hmm. And children.
And children. Okay.
Yeah.
This is, you're fast tracking. This is happening quickly.
Yeah, it happened really, really quick. So quick that I asked the Lord, I was like, can we slow down a little bit? I want to make sure, compliant, this, that, the other. It happened so quickly. And watching people, here's one thing that I learned. Facilities, it's pretty easy. People make your appointments for you. They cook your meals for you. You know what I mean? Your bedding's there. You don't have to do much other than heal and get well. Mm-hmm. The really, really hard part about recovery is what happens after. It's like, okay, you have the tools. Now go build something. And if you aren't intentional about staying connected, it can get scary. One of the jobs that I had when I was in prison was the town driver, and I got to drive people on the last day of prison to the bus stop so they could go back home. I would say that is far more terrifying than coming into prison. So it's like the fear, can I do this? Am I going to screw it up? How am I going to do this? How do I not go back to my old life? And entering into that with somebody is just such an honor to be able to walk with them. I think of it as a bowling lane that has bumpers, You can't go all the way in the gutter. There's somebody there to keep you out of the gutter, and I get to be that and walk with people and help them build their lives. And I have an amazing team. We have 9 employees, and we get to build a community for these ladies. And we volunteer, we give back. We've got job placement. We've got people coming in to do parenting classes. And we opened up our first women and children's home there's not many of those in the state of Minnesota. So we opened up one of those in Brainerd, and soon we'll be opening up a second one in Savage. So
that is really cool. Obviously, there's a huge need there, Bill, if you can open up and have 8 of them. We had a guest on our program a few years ago whose daughter couldn't get into a halfway house, so he bought a big house in St. Paul. It's called the Lion House now.
I know that house.
And he did that because he had gotten sober, and then his daughter couldn't go anywhere. So you really are filling a need. And I only work with men, but with women, there's usually kids and all sorts of things. So when you get out of rehab, and I only got out 3 times, I'm doing well on the 3rd one, I guess. But the fact hits you, I can use, And so I think rehab's really about discovery, but recovery happens when you walk out the door.
Yep.
And if you don't have a lot of people, as you said, you have a lot of other life issues. Your big problem isn't your using, it's you. And to have time to do that, the longer the treatment and aftercare and sober housing, the greater the sobriety rate, right?
Yep.
How long do you have people there?
The program is designed to be anywhere from 3 months to a year.
Okay.
People are staying closer to the year. I've got a couple gals that are like, I'd like to finish my degree while I'm here because I want to stay under this sober umbrella. So I've got people who have been there over a year, but it becomes family, it becomes community, so people don't go too far. A lot of the women that have gone through our program now work for Restore Recovery.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
So you've kind of got a role model of what God did in your life that would be very attractive for people. And it's interesting, Bill, over the years working with people, when the thought hits people that can't help themselves, that they could help other people, that turns the light on for many, many people.
Yeah.
And they see you, and what a great example. You had no idea this would happen, did you?
I had no idea. I think there's some people that were around me that had an idea. Pastor Rich Sherber probably had an idea. I was like, man, who is this guy? He's been such a great mentor to me. But yeah. And, I also saw people that went before me in Teen Challenge, and I was like, this is possible. It's possible to turn your life around. I see people walking it out and living it every day, but I didn't quite believe it for me until later on. So,
Mindy, when did hope really kick in to your heart, and you all of a sudden said, I have hope, and I'm not letting it go?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I had hope going through Teen Challenge, but hope with conditions.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I hope this all works out.
Okay, no, I'm talking about the certainty of hope, yes.
Yeah, that I would say towards the end of my program in Teen Challenge, I knew that no matter what, God was never going to leave me. I knew no matter what my prison sentence ended up being, that he was going to walk with me. And I think I really want to say that my hope was strengthened while I was in prison, because I knew that. I'm like, how do I have this much joy in this situation?
Good point.
Anything that has happened in life. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of death, a lot of trauma, a lot of things have happened, even, in my walk. And I always know the presence of God is there. So nothing is so great that it's going to overtake me. And so, it keeps building, but I think I really developed that in prison.
I think the fearlessness we heard at age 14 is now working to your advantage as you're stepping out in faith and saying, Lord, what's next?
Yeah.
And here's another home and another home.
Yeah.
And you're watching God's plan unfold. And I think connected to that is that 14-year-old fearlessness. But this time it's being used for God's glory.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The quality was always there. And now you can work with other people that have the same backstory you do. So you know them and they know you.
Yeah.
And that's why recovery groups work. You know people when you meet them.
Yep.
I'm like you are. And most of us, when we get into that, we feel like we're unique, we're different. And to go into Teen Challenge or Salvation Army or someplace and go, I kind of belong here.
Yeah.
I've never felt that way in my life. So what an amazing story.
Yeah. Mindy, talk about how important it is to be in community, because that's a source of encouragement for people listening, because they're trying to do this alone, or they're going at it with, not getting into groups, not getting into recovery rooms, not taking the risk, not going to church, and just encourage people to say, I've got to take that step.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is finding the right group. Not every group is for everybody. I struggled. I remember getting out of prison and going, trying this group and trying that group. And then, but having my church family and just not giving up until I found not only the right group, but also the right church.
Yep.
At Teen Challenge, we get spoiled because we get to go to so many different churches. So I kind of knew what I was looking for. But you don't get well by yourself. Especially if you haven't walked this out before, you need people who have to come alongside you. You need peers who are going to tell you about yourself too. Mm-hmm. That's really important. I have a 3-pack of people. One of them is a strong encourager, and I feel like I could do no wrong, and she would be like, I'm here for you. I have one who will just speak scripture to me, always leads me back to the Bible. And then I have another person in my support group who does not think I'm charming and tells me about myself all the time. And I need all 3 of them on a daily basis. So I would say if you don't have that, find it.
Well, that's a beautiful thing that you have that kind of support. Mm-hmm. You got truth tellers all over the place.
Yep.
Well, one of the things about that is then we don't have to make decisions on our own.
Yeah. Yep.
And you provide that back to them, and it's nice to have people that have the permission to tell you how they really feel.
Yeah. I don't always like it.
I never, you know what?
Yeah.
Feedback to me,
Yeah.
the good stuff's not as good as it should be.
Yeah.
And the negative is way too harsh. But on my own, I don't see reality the way other people see it back. And it's very important. How do you like working with the women you work with?
Oh, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I really couldn't.
Do you feel like it comes naturally to you that you were kind of made to do this, that you had the interest, you had to work at it, but you intuitively know how to handle situations that you wouldn't have before because of God?
Oh, yeah. Yep, 100%. I'm not really surprised anymore. There's not a situation that has come up that I haven't seen quite yet. But I'm always like, okay, Lord, I was like, you be here, not me. Let my words be your words. Let you shine through me, because I don't have all the answers, but I do have the desire.
So working with other people is great. It's the highest call. But how do you take care of yourself so you don't get compassion fatigue and get burned out?
Yeah, that's that. There is a recipe for that. It is a lot of self-care. It is boundaries, which I'm terrible at, because if somebody calls me, I want to go help them. It's making sure that I'm putting my family first. It's making sure that I take vacations. It's making sure that I stay connected to God.
How do you tell when you're getting compassion fatigue?
Oh, yeah, there's very clear signs.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And the people who are close to me recognize them as well. I no longer want to help people find the answer. I just tell them the answer and then get mad at them when they don't do it. Like, it's this easy,
I think the number one because I've been in the field for a long time, and I ask other people, the number one thing you can tell is you get mad at your clients. Mm-hmm. And it's like, whoa, I got to step back here. But it's natural if you don't. I don't think working with people helps my own recovery. It can hurt it because I can think I know more about it. And you're helping other people's why you got sober.
Yeah.
But you need to still work your own program.
Yep.
Fair?
Yep.
Yeah, it's remarkable story. And I love what God's done in your life and is doing in your life.
Yeah.
And I'm very hopeful for what's ahead in your ministry with your sober houses and how God is going to continue to use you in remarkable ways. Mindy, thank you so much for being an amazing guest. George, that wraps up our show for the day.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really good.
We love when you tune in and then you take this episode and you send it to someone that you know is suffering and that would be benefiting from hearing Mindy's story. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.